Hi, everybody. Welcome to RooLive Career Webinar. I'm Lisa Tynan with Roo. Joining me to, I think, my left is Dr. Nell Ostermeier, and she's joining us to talk today about the client connection. So one of the things that sets Roo apart as a relief staffing service, other than our fabulous online platform, is our transparency. So we allow all of our users the opportunity to rate their experience after each relief shift, which provides valuable feedback to help vets and techs and hospital personnel learn and grow in their profession. So one common bit of feedback that we receive in regards to performance, both from the visiting vet or tech or from the host hospital, is tableside manner. And then, the ability for the professionals to connect with clients quickly in a relief setting. And Nell and I have had this conversation a couple times about how that is especially challenging for relief veterinarians. So I'm going to let Dr. Nell introduce herself and go ahead and get right into the presentation. I'm going to be tracking our Q&A. So if you are joining us on Zoom, you can type questions in there. If you're joining us on Facebook, you can type questions in there. I'm going to be manning all of our streams, and we'll try to get to your questions at the end. So Dr. Nell, take it away.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and to speak about a piece of being a veterinarian that I find very special and rewarding, and I'm really passionate about, and that's the client connection. Before I get started, I'm going to do a little intro, like you said, for myself, just so you know a bit about me. So I'll share my screen and we'll get started on that. I am Dr. Nell Ostermeier, or just Dr. Nell is fine. I received my DVM from the University of Illinois in 2004, and then did some work as an associate vet for the first 2 years of practice, and became a relief vet for a whole year. During that time, I was visiting other practices and gathering ideas to open my own practice with my husband, which we did in 2007 here in Portland, Oregon. In 2010, I decided to become acupuncture certified, and I did that through IVIS, and brought it back to my practice, grew my clientele, realized I wanted to be 100% integrative, so always combining both the East and the West. And so I returned to IVIS as a teaching assistant, which really began my teaching and presenting career. In 2019, I sat for the FAVA exam, and this is an advanced certification in veterinary acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, which is hosted by the American Academy of Veterinary Acupuncturists. So I am an integrative veterinarian. I love Western medicine, but I also like combining the alternative options, and specifically acupuncture. I practice virtually through people and pet integrative therapies. I host virtual visits, which is really applicable right now, and it was helpful to have that set up. And I practice hands-on in the trenches at Lombard Animal Hospital, the practice that I owned for 10 years. And I'm there in Portland, Oregon. I'm also an educator, speaker, and motivator. I'm currently a coordinator and instructor for the IVIS acupuncture course for certification. I've spoken at conferences both nationally and internationally and truly enjoy it. And I also do one-on-one coaching for vets and veterinary teams through people and pet integrative therapies. And I'm also human. And the human part is where we really want to come from when we're connecting with our clients. And we're going to get into that today. So as relief veterinarians, or as veterinarians hiring relief, there are some specific and unique challenges. So while this presentation is really applicable to any veterinarian or veterinary team member, I have tailored it to specifically relief. And that's because of those unique challenges. You're always seeing new faces, new spaces, you're working within different business models with different cultures, and all of that brings about its challenges. Or, I don't necessarily think they're always challenges. Sometimes it feels good to try something new frequently, but it's still something new to navigate. And one of the things that is a bit harder, I think, as a relief veterinarian is making that client connection. So we have some objectives today around that, and hopefully we're also going to achieve results by bringing back what we learn, taking it into our relief practice, and then receiving the feedback that we're looking for. Our objectives are to relate to clients quickly and authentically. This is so important in our fast-paced and relationship-based business. We also want to listen, acknowledge, and convey empathy. And we want to communicate with confidence using stories and understandable terms that our clients can identify with. The projected results of this, of bringing this into our daily practice, is that we'll have more effective client connections, we'll have better patient results, and we'll have improved on-the-job confidence and both client and hospital feedback. So kind of getting back to that rating system that Roo provides that's so special and unique in the relief world. Just gonna. So the importance of the, oops, sorry guys, I got a little click happy there. The importance of the client connection. How important is it? Well, connectivity has been shown to be the #1 quality that keeps clients back for the long term. We make the connection, and then the connectivity is sustaining that connection. And in the veterinary field, as in any service industry, long-term clients are our most valuable assets. These long-term clients trust us already. Because they trust us, they're more likely to elect and accept the recommendations that we put forth. They spend more, and they spend more because they trust what we're recommending for a good reason. And they generate amazing amounts of word-of-mouth referrals. So you can see why hospitals hiring relief might be a little bit focused on that client connection. Just how valuable is it? I can give you some stats that will bring that forward. This is from a study conducted by Bain & Company, which is one of the most prolific business analytic firms out there. It costs 5 times more to attract a new customer than to keep an existing one. So if we really focus on the connection and the connectivity, the long term, it's actually a lot less work and energy. Increasing client retention by 5% can increase total profit up to 95%. In this particular study, the worst that any hospital did, or any service industry did, by increasing 5% in client retention was a 25% increase in total profit. So that's a pretty amazing return on just keeping that connection with clients and making sure that they come back to the hospital that you are working within. And 60 to 80% of customers do not return to a company that initially satisfied them, even if they no longer feel a connection. And I feel like this is a really important stat for veterinarians, because oftentimes we provide very high quality work, and we even get the results for the patient that we were going for. And so it's very hard to understand when sometimes the clients where we felt like we achieved what we needed to achieve for the patient are the ones providing feedback that maybe they didn't feel a connection, or they'd prefer not to see that visiting veterinarian again. And that's really what we want to avoid. We want to avoid this chunk of customers leaving, not because you, the veterinarian, didn't provide what they needed, but more that you just didn't connect with them. And in order for you to get the results, the best results for those patients, and the results that you want in the feedback from other hospitals, the way to do that is your clients need to know what's in it for them. And what I mean by for them is for their pets. So it doesn't matter what type of pet it is. Oh, gotta have I have to see my last one. There he is. That's Milo, one of my favorite bunny patients. It doesn't matter what type of pet it is. It's part of their family, and that he or she is part of their family. And so we really need to let them know what we're recommending and why we're recommending something and what's in it for that patient. And we need to do this quickly and authentically. So we need to connect with them quickly and authentically. How are we going to do that? Veterinarians often get hung up on the how. And one of the ways that we do connect with them and explain our results is to give them a bit of how something works. But I really want to have a big caution note here, because we tend as veterinarians to think this is the most important thing, that how something works, how a test works, how it changes lab values, what the mechanism of action is for a specific drug or medication. That's really important to us because we're extremely scientific minded. But that isn't always what's most important to our clients. So we want to be knowledgeable and we want to share that knowledge, but we don't want to let our interest in the research and the scientific information take over. Now, what's a little more important to our client is the why, and I call that the personalized message. So the why is specific to the patient. It's why that recommendation, that treatment, or that diagnostic is going to specifically help that pet. And then the proof is what helps us establish authenticity, and it's where we draw confidence. So this is all about storytelling, and we're going to get to that a little bit later in the presentation. We also need to listen, acknowledge, and convey empathy. What's most important to our client is how are you going to help their pet, and how are you going to address their main concern? So what I'm getting at here is sometimes we have patients come in and man, their wheels are coming off. You know, they've got a problem list longer than the Nile, and the client's main concern is getting their nails trimmed. I mean, how often has that happened to you? And so what we want to do is be able to speak, to listen to that client's main concern, even though trimming the nails may not be the most important thing for that pet. If that client thinks that it's bothering their pet or if it's bothering them, and we don't satisfy that particular need, then they're less likely to listen to the other recommendations that we want to put forth. And beyond that, when we get to the end of the appointment or when they go home, if we haven't addressed their main concern, it's likely that they won't see the success in that appointment. So it's really important that we listen. Also, sometimes our pet owners come in with crazy little details. Now, as an integrative veterinarian and practicing Chinese medicine, I love those crazy little details because they all have buckets in Chinese medicine, but they do not have buckets in Western medicine. So sometimes you're going to hear about strange behaviors that you don't consider to be pathologic or of medical importance. You don't have to figure those out. You don't necessarily have to give the client an answer. We just need to acknowledge that they're happening, acknowledge that we hear them, acknowledge that they are a piece of the presentation of that patient. And if we really need to, we can actually redirect that client by telling them we can look at that in a follow-up appointment, but we really need to focus on what's most important today. And that is how you're going to help their pet with these main concerns that you have as the veterinarian. When you listen and acknowledge, you convey empathy, and that empathy is what really starts to build the connection. And we also want to personalize the message. I kind of touched on this in an earlier slide. So we want to explain the why behind our recommendations and why those recommendations are most important to their pet, to their pet's happiness and longevity. Like I said, listening conveys empathy, and that leads to a deepened human-human connection, which is the piece that we need to get the results for the patient. Now, I chose to share these particular photos for a few reasons. This is Sugar Bear on the left, the headshot, and on the right, you'll see Sugar Bear and Ralph, his housemate, his brother. These are both pugs who are over 14 years old. Both of these guys presented to me during quarantine. So basically since the COVID crisis began. So we're not actually seeing patients face to face. Both of these guys presented to me for hind limb weakness as their main concern and improving that hind limb weakness. Sugar Bear also has collapsing trachea to the point that he passes out. And Ralph has cerebellar hypoplasia, and he could barely keep his head straight. Okay, so what I'm trying to bring forward here is that even though hind limb weakness is a legitimate problem, and the expectation to improve that is a realistic one. So, you know, always want to make sure that the client's expectations are addressed, and that if they're not realistic, or if they are realistic, somehow we build a bridge there as well. But they also had some other really big problems. And the way that I connected with these clients is to have a video consult on the first visit. And then obviously that does take quite a bit of time, especially when I'm placing needles. And what you're seeing there is acupuncture with electrostimulation. And so the first visit, I used the video so that I could connect more easily with facial expressions, and really just putting a face with my name. These people had never met me, and were entrusting me with the care of their precious 14 plus year old pugs. And then after the video visit, I was in future visits. So I think they're on their 4th or 5th visit at this point. I just shared photos. And as you can see in this photo, I did work on the hind limb weakness that was occurring secondary to their spinal arthritis, their spondylosis. And you can see very clearly how hunched their back is. And then as they go through their treatment, and that's over a period of about 15 minutes, how much more elongated their spine becomes. Now, I use acupuncture because I'm doing that in every appointment every day. If you want to use visual assets in order to get the message across, or to show results to your clients, and to strengthen that connection and show the value of what you're providing, you can use pictures of things that you do every day. You know, it doesn't have to be acupuncture. But by getting the results with the hind limb weakness, by elongating the spine, I was able to show the clients that even though the gait for these guys, meaning the way that they were using their hind end due to pretty significant atrophy of the muscles of the quadriceps, the gait didn't change all that much, but the clients saw the result of the elongation of the spine, and they saw their patients resting comfortably. And that helped me to come to a better bridge in the expectation. You know, we're not going to get these guys completely strong but we can make differences in other areas. Oh, by the way, we also need to address these other major problems they're having in future appointments. Okay, so hopefully that gave examples of how to connect in this special time that we're all in, as well as how you can visibly show your clients results and what you can do for their pet. We also need to communicate with confidence. In everyday life and when I practice, I'm always coming across what I call real world moments. And I found this one to be especially important. And that is, if we don't see the value in what we're providing, neither will our clients. And this comes into play in a couple areas of communication and connection. One area is confidence. These clients, these pet owners are coming to us for our expert advice. They expect us to be experts. So when we come into the room, or when we are on the phone, or we're on the video, and we want to convey to them our recommendations, we really need to lay it out with confidence. And I don't mean that we need to be condescending or overbearing. We can still offer choices, but we need to not waffle in our communications. It needs to be very clear what we're recommending and why, even if that means there might be a plan A and a plan B. We're recommending this because this is what it's going to do for your pet. We're recommending this because this is what it's going to do for your pet. And you just kind of go through step by step the recommendations that you're making. The other part of this is owning the value of what you're recommending from a financial standpoint. So as veterinarians, we often, we have a lot of empathy, and that's a good thing. You know, we talked about that earlier, that helps build the connection. But sometimes our empathy gets the better of us, And it flip-flops into guilt. And we go into the exam room or we speak with the client and we start trying to figure out their budget or project what they can afford, when they're actually there for our expert advice. I had a client tell me once, early on in my career, she said, I'm really not here for you to balance my budget or be my banker. I'm here because I want you to tell me what is the best thing for my pet. And I know that we often have to come up with plan B and plan C, but what I'm encouraging here is with confidence that you promote plan A, and that you don't let your internal empathy or guilt get the better of you and hinder you in making recommendations that could really get results for your patients. It's just a really important thing, being confident and letting them know that you are the expert that they came to see. Not only do we have to be confident, but we also have to be understandable. It's easier to communicate the value of what we're recommending if we can provide some proof. And our scientific minds, especially minds in the world of medicine, veterinarians, veterinary staff, we tend to think immediately of proof as data or research. But proof can also be experiential. And experiential proof is just a fancy way of saying stories. So what I'm saying here is that stories are often more understandable for our clients and can result in a better connection than loading them up with a bunch of stats or data, even though that might be important to us. And it should be, because we want to make sure what we're recommending is safe and effective, but it's maybe not as important to them. The value of storytelling when it comes to authenticity. Sharing real world stories of how you've helped other pets establishes authenticity and strengthens the connection with your client, while allowing you to speak with confidence and ease. So not only are you becoming more human, coming from that human piece by sharing a story about another patient that you've helped or seen improve with certain recommendations or treatments, but you also can draw confidence from these stories. And that way you'll come across as that expert, like I said before in the earlier slide. And it's a lot easier. Frankly, it's a lot easier to tell a story, to remember a story, than it is to regurgitate facts. And frankly, it's more fun. So we're going to do a couple of exercises. The first one's going to be around personalizing the message. And the second one is going to be around sharing your story or your experiential proof. We're not going to take the time to go through the whole exercise, but I'd like you to do this after the presentation, maybe this evening or maybe tomorrow at work. What you can do is think of the 5 most common problems or types of patients that you see in a typical day, and just kind of brain dump that down and streamline it. Start with 5. You can always expand later. I'll mention too that this exercise is extremely helpful for introverted veterinarians who have the goldest of hearts, but just don't find it as easy to do improv, let's say, in the exam room. List your top recommendations for these 5 types of patients. So you don't have to get super detailed, just like your top 3, So like maybe kidney disease and then your top 3. And then create 1 sentence around each recommendation, why that recommendation will specifically help the patient in both doctor and owner terms. So what I mean by that is wrapping up in just 1 sentence a bit of scientific or medical info with a bit of understandable, more layperson terminology. And you don't have to do this all by yourself. This is actually a great team building exercise. If you can engage your team around this instead of being an island, number one, all of this client connecting doesn't fall on you. And especially being relief veterinarians, if your support staff, if the team that you walk into at that hospital knows the clients better than you do, certainly draw from that. So it's always, this can be an icebreaker for you coming into a new hospital. If you're assigned a specific assistant, you could say, hey, I want to talk about, what are the 5 most common things you think you see here at the practice? Because you're going to walk into practices that are really wellness focused, and you might walk into practices that are walk-in or emergency. or, appointment based. Each model is going to be different. So engage your support team, ask them what they most commonly see, take the time to jot down a few recommendations for each of those problems, and have your little script ready for what you're going to recommend and why it will specifically help that problem or that symptom in that patient. Here's a really good example. I'm just going to use Azadil. Most of us are probably familiar with Azadil, but if you're not, it's a supplement that we use for renal insufficiency cats to reduce the BUN and creatinine in the bloodstream. So here's a little blurb you could share with the client that you're recommending this to. This supplement helps to reduce BUN and creatinine. In my experience, cats like Cookie have more stable or improved lab results and a better appetite when taking it regularly. So you can see what I did there. I actually did pull in the scientific data. I pulled in the testing, the BUN and creatinine, which is also going to open the door into having the discussion around monitoring more than likely. I talked about my experience establishing myself as an expert, but not just my experience as a veterinarian, also with cats, just like Cookie. And I used Cookie's name. Clients really appreciate it when you use their patient's name. And then I brought in why is this specifically going to help my pet? Stable and improved lab results, which is great. That's a great result, but better appetite when taking it regularly. Appetite is definitely one of those signs or symptoms that our clients obsess over, and rightfully so. So things like that, appetite, sleep, comfort, pain relief, those are all really good things to bring into your personalized message, things that are meaningful to the client and to that patient's quality of life. So you can do that example for obviously anything that you're going to recommend. And I'm not saying to make a list, each and every day. I'm saying make a list of your most common seen patients and then take that with you. Exercise 2 is around the storytelling or the experiential data. So we want to be able to draw confidence from this, and we want to be able to express our humanness and our authenticity to the client with this. In this exercise, you would think of 3 patients that you have helped achieve high impact results. We all have those really special cases, really special patients where we're just never going to forget them. We possibly even think about them on a daily basis. After you think of those 3 patients, jot them down and have that story in your mind, you'll be able to draw confidence from your own personal proof. That's what this is. And you can use it when speaking to clients about the value behind your recommendations, specifically if those problems have to do with some of your very best patient results. For both exercise 1 and exercise 2, you want to practice and repeat. So over and over in the exam rooms or with your team or with your family and friends in front of the computer, whatever you need to do to feel more confident. I'm actually going to speak just a little bit about the photos I included here because they bring in the storytelling. These are my stories. The first one on the left is my own dog, Vinny. And speaking about your own pets is totally fair game. And in fact, clients really, really identify with that because once again, it comes back to empathy. If you've had a pet in their situation, then they know that you've been through their pain. And so because they know you've been through their pain, it establishes just an additional level of empathy and connection with them. And, specifically when you get around talking about multiple medications, multiple tests, monitoring, all of the difficult things that aren't just one-offs in our field. So Vinny, he's got musculoskeletal disease, he's got cardiac disease. I can use him for a lot of he's over 14 years old. So I can use him for a lot of examples. The second photo is just me with my advanced certification. That's not so much a story about a patient. That's actually a story that my clients like to hear about what I'm doing out in the world, the community, out in the veterinary community, out in the Portland community, whether it's speaking, whether it's teaching, whether it's traveling, presenting, or volunteering. Clients love to hear about what you're actually doing out in the other real world, outside of the exam room walls. The third one is a patient, Sabrina. Sabrina was 13 years old when she came to me with an osteosarcoma on her left front. And with integrative medicine, with the recommendations that I put forth to her client, we actually got 2 additional high quality years for Sabrina. 2 years is just an exceptional amount of time for a patient to be symptom-free after being diagnosed with such an awful tumor. And it also is a really inspiring story, because how often do we have to go in and deliver really bad news? Sometimes those are the most difficult times to connect, because we're not only navigating our communication skills and our veterinary skills, but we're also navigating the emotions of the client and trying to honor them while also getting results for the patient. And then the last patient is Bunbert, a rabbit who came to me more or less in pain, senior bunny with arthritis. This client had never heard of acupuncture for pets. So this is a great example of when you're presenting something completely new to the client. And the great thing about Bunbert is her mom became one of my biggest fans and one of my biggest word of mouth referral sources. So I took the time, not so much to explain how acupuncture works, but to let her know why I thought it would help Bunbert and how I had helped all of these other rabbits before Bunbert. And, she took that to heart. She tried it and she saw the results, and then she shared the results. So you can see why this connection would be so important to the health of the practices that you are participating in. So do them a favor, practice and repeat. The whole point of this entire presentation is to help you grow a natural, stronger connection with clients when you're going to the exam room, when you're speaking with them on the phone, when you're doing a virtual consult. And you're going to do this through your authentic, personalized, confident interactions that you'll be practicing. And because of that, we'll have happier, healthier pets, happier clients, hospitals, and vets. It really is a win for everybody. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed presenting this. I'm going to field questions now, and I absolutely invite you to reach out to me any other time through my website, peopleandpet.com, or any one of my social media outlets. And please register with Roo.
Gosh, you do a little commercial there. Amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
I do. So I want to remind folks, you can ask, and I have some questions that came up while I was watching this. But if you're watching us on Zoom, you can type questions into that little Q&A at the bottom. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can type questions in there. I can see everything. I'm omniscient. So I have 3 questions. As you were going through this, some things that sort of sparked in me, and actually relative to what you were talking about with this weird time right now where people are having virtual visits and the sort of normal flow of veterinary medicine is disrupted. People have a little more time to stew and panic about their pets. And in the age of WebMD and, being your own Google doctor, how do you balance that sort of sense of panic and urgency on the part of the client with your projection of confidence? Because, you want to tell them like, okay, Google is not me. Let me answer you, but you also want to listen to and empathize with the owner.
Well, first of all, I don't fight Google. I don't go to battle. So what I try to do when I have a client meeting with me and they are giving me all of the information that they got from Dr. Google is I try to pull out the one golden nugget, the one bit of information that has validity. Or in some cases, there's actually a lot of information that has validity. It just depends on that client's capability level within the internet space in searching, and maybe also combined with their own personal level of medical or biological knowledge. So you'll get clients that actually do great Google searching and honestly make your job easier. because they brought you good information. They brought you things that they want to try that are valid. And then you'll have the other kind, which is kind of what you were alluding to.
Yes.
And that's where there's a lot of misinformation or a lot of mixed information. Like you can't possibly do all of those things all at once for a patient. So in that case, with the easy ones, there's really no challenge because I just say, wow, you really did your research. You're right on target. And then I'll just say, these are the things that you brought up that I'd like to try today. But with the other, it's really just looking for that one little golden nugget which ties back into acknowledgement. So by battling Google and by not acknowledging anything that the client feels that they found on their own, you're actually being dismissive. And when you do that, it really hinders the client connection. And it's hard for them to listen to anything you recommend because they're actually really proud of what they found. And I am certainly do not want to project with this presentation that we should only do what the clients want. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to acknowledge their wants, their needs, their primary concerns. And if those don't match with ours, we have to find a way to acknowledge and then bring our main concerns in order to advocate for the patient. But if we shut them down right away, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're shutting them down.
Yeah. You actually segued perfectly into my next question.
Okay.
It was really nicely done. One of the challenges that our folks face on the vet and the tech side is that every hospital does things differently. Not just in terms of their, how they wipe down surfaces or whatever, but they also do practice slightly different medicine. Depending on who the vet is that founded the practice. So how do you recommend staying true to your personal brand of medicine while also helping as a relief vet or tech promoting the hospital client bond? Because at the end of the day, you're a temporary employee and your job is to make sure that client stays true to that hospital.
Yes, exactly. And you don't, because of the way that Roo is set up, fortunately, I don't think you're going to run into many situations as a veterinarian with this particular company where you would be sacrificing your core values, so to speak. So I don't think you'll run across that as severely. When I did relief and I didn't have a platform like Roo, I actually was in those situations and it was very difficult to navigate. And I had to really draw from my internal confidence. As an extrovert, that's a little bit easier for me. As an introvert, sometimes that can be really, really difficult. But let's just say you're not going to be in that extreme of a situation. It's really more of a style thing, or maybe just a priority thing. So for example, if you're a relief vet and wellness is really, really important to you, meaning wellness lab work, preventative measures, providing the plan A for every single pet so they can have the longest, happiest life possible. And you happen to be practicing in a more high volume, fast paced, maybe even a walk-in situation that particular hospital maybe doesn't place as much importance on getting around to wellness. It's more like, let's check off the boxes that this client came in for. And then, if you have time, you can get to wellness. There is a happy medium. I mean, what you can do is you can get the feel for the vibe of that hospital, find out what their priorities are, which really comes back to meeting with them either virtually on the phone or in person before you show up for the shift. It also comes back to the team engagement. You can have a little 5-minute powwow with your assistant for the day and find out kind of like what are their priorities. Once again, what do they see most frequently? And I'm just using wellness as an example. If this hospital isn't as wellness focused and they're more like, we put out one fire at a time, like we see the main fire, we put it out. Just enter that wellness space gradually, like put out the fire and then tie in the wellness in the form of, hey, I'd really like to address this, or even I'd really like to address this in a follow-up appointment. I'd like to get you scheduled for a recheck because while we're taking care of this big problem today, I'm seeing a lot of other little things, or I'm seeing a couple of other things that are really keeping Oscar from living his happiest, best life. And no hospital is going to be upset that you're having patients come back for recheck exams. Right. And going back to over empathizing, we have to get over this thing that our clients don't want to come in. That's absolutely not true. If you, in most cases, if you can connect with that client will be more than happy to bring their patient back. And it really is no different that part is really no different in the current time that we're in. I mean, you're still going to be doing the same thing. You just might not be doing it right in front of the client. Some clients, who tend to have really busy lives are actually preferring this valet style, veterinary care because they can actually leave and go get something done. We always offered that before, but our clients always wanted to be in the room. Now that the room is not an option, they're like, hey, well, can I go get a couple of things done? So I guess what I'm saying is don't be afraid to have a patient come back for whatever it is that you think is really, really important that you don't want to leave out, so that you don't have to sacrifice the type of medicine that you want to do in order to get the job done for that particular patient. And I'll only say one more thing, and this could be an entire webinar. There's also a responsibility on the hospital's part. The hospital, if a hospital wants the best results out of their relief veterinarians, they should proactively share with them their healthy pet or wellness recommendations, their mission statement or their core values, and just maybe a little blurb about their vibe. I mean, it's not hard to do.
Yep. And we also recommend to our hospitals that they go out of their way to introduce the relief veterinarian as a phenomenal relief veterinarian to their clients, so that they're already getting the vet tech, they're already getting off on the right foot, not saying, oh, they're just here for the day, don't worry about what they have to say. Because if the hospital that this person has been going to for 10 years is like, this is Dr. Ostermeier, she's amazing, and we love having her here, then the client's ready to receive whatever it is you have to say already.
Yes. When I was a practice owner, I did want to bring that up. When I was a practice owner, and my husband and I own the practice, and so we did want relief because that's what allowed us to actually go on vacations together. We always announced our relief vets as visiting vets, and we announced it on social media, and we announced it through just hard copy in our lobby. And that way, it really did seem like a special occurrence, like a special appearance, where you had the opportunity maybe to get another set of eyes on your patient with this qualified veterinarian that we trust. You know, we at Lombard Animal Hospital trust, so we're hoping that you will too.
Absolutely. And then my last question, and then we can wrap up. And this may be too existential of a question, I don't know. But is there such a thing as too much connection? Should we be maintaining professional distance? How much professional? Because I know we have amazing vets and techs and PMs on all parts of the spectrum of introvert to extrovert and everything in between. And some folks talk to you like you've known each other forever, and other folks would rather get in, get out, and be done with it. Can you have too much connection?
The answer to that is yes, but you're talking to someone that has traveled the world and become very close friends with some of my clients. Right. But we can't become travel buddies or BFFs with every client, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always maintained a professional line when I'm within the hospital walls. So my answer to that is yes, there can absolutely be too much connection, or there can be a bit of a fuzziness around that line. If you don't have that internal confidence that you need to have when making recommendations for that client that sort of makes it into the next level of relationship with you. So I guess it kind of comes down, and this is just me speaking from my tactics. I think different tactics for different folks, but you have to compartmentalize a little bit. If you're going to become friends with a client outside of the veterinary hospital, you have to be able to reestablish that line of professionalism within the veterinary hospital. And I do think, you also need to always speak and use language that's professional. So I'm talking a lot about telling stories, but I don't mean to say that we should get so casual that we stop using professional or acceptable business style language, I guess, if you will. Business style is probably not the right word, but yeah. So it all really depends on you internally, how you can honor that deep connection that you've made while also advocating for the patient and maintaining those professional boundaries, and not letting, certainly not letting your empathy flip into guilt around asking this client / friend to do something that their pet needs them to do.
And to put a nice little neat bow on that, at the end, one of the things at Roo that we really focus on is support. And that's not just professional support. We want to help folks have the best possible career they can have. But we also want to show an industry that is filled with really, really empathetic people and compassionate people, that they're not alone, that they don't have to feel, like you said, you have to be professional, and there's guilt wrapped around expenses and making tough decisions that human medical doctors are not forced to make. And it's a completely different world out there for veterinary professionals. And part of our mantra, relief, support, community, is that key middle part, support. So, we have on our website, we have our Roo for You blog page, where people have access to mental health resources and tips for well-being. And while this presentation obviously is focusing on really good professional advice, being more confident in a work environment is going to lead to more confidence and satisfaction outside of work, which is just as important. We don't want our users to burn out. That's really important to us.
No, and a huge piece of getting that positive feedback from the hospitals that you perform within, or getting some feedback from that hospital that their clients let them know that they actually enjoyed seeing you. I mean, that is going to add to your professional satisfaction. Yeah. You'll want to go back to that hospital. You'll want to reconnect with those clients. The client connection is it's not only valuable for the reasons we talked about it here because of the business health, but it's valuable to us because it brings meaning around to what we do, and it can also be fun, and we all need to be having a little bit of fun at work.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that. And on that note, this has been absolutely informative and helpful. And I hope all of the folks who have been watching have gotten as much out of this as I have. I spent less than a year as a veterinary assistant, and there is a lot of this that I wish that I had learned beforehand, that I would have felt a lot better in the rooms with those folks. So I hope that our viewers have taken as much out of this. For those of you who have been watching who are already on Roo, thank you. Hopefully you'll log in after this and book some more shifts, because you'll be feeling so excited to practice your new confident techniques for talking to clients in the rooms. For those of you who are new or have not registered, as Dr. Nell put on her slide, our website is roo.vet, www.roo.vet. We are a free platform to use. Our hospital users only have to pay once they have booked and confirmed a shift with us. There's no account fee, there's no membership fee, no contracts, no non-competes, because we want people to enjoy using Roo so that they can enjoy their career all over again. So thank you again. We're going to make this available to view offline as well. So if you came in partway through, or if you had to cut out early or anything, or you just want to keep this in your little knowledge bank, it has been so informative. So thank you again, Dr. Nell. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. I didn't even take a sip of my my ginger ale out of my Astros cup. We were talking about how we wanted to make this super casual, and then we got so involved we forgot to drink. So,
we didn't even have I didn't even have my happy hour beer after all.
You're gonna have to have the post.
I'm heading there now.
Perfect. And because you are the host, you are the one who gets to end this meeting.
Okay.
So thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you next time.